Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Sarah.
And today Sarah and I are going to tell you how we felt about the live-action Beauty and the Beast adaptation, remake, what have you. We're doing this with a lot of Disney movies right now, and this is the first of these I've seen.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't bother with Cinderella. I heard really good things about The Jungle Book, which is, only somewhat live action because it has a person in it, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the live action Lion King, because that's going to be entirely CG creatures, but still being sold as a live action movie.
They should do Aristocats.
That would be crazy. No, that's crazy talk. Yeah. How do you even do that? There's no way you could do that and it not look like just a live action movie with CG characters, right? Like there's a distinction.
Yeah.
Because like Beauty and the Beast is working really hard to make it CG creatures not look like CG creatures.
Yeah. Yeah.
And does a pretty good job of it, I think.
Considering what they were attempting, they pulled it off pretty well.
It's a pretty ambitious thing. So anyway, this one I finally, I say I haven't been to any of these. We did go to the dreaded Maleficent.
Well, yeah, that's what turned us off in the first place. I haven't cared since then.
But it wasn't an adaptation. It was a prequel thing.
But it made me just not care about any Disney live action ever, and they should have not made that, because then I would have seen these other good ones.
Yeah, Jungle Book I will finally get around to. It's Jon Favreau. People say it's the best thing he's made in a long time. And a lot of people swear that it's better than the original, or they appreciate it more than the original. So anyway, let's go ahead and get straight into this. The reason I decided I had to check this one out is because this is probably in my top 3 of Disney animated classics.
Really?
And and I have a lot of nostalgia for this. Obviously, nostalgia's selling this really hard.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some folks are going to worry that this movie is just banking on nostalgia, and we'll have to speak to that as we review it. But I saw that movie when it came out in the theater. I was in 2nd grade, and my 2nd grade teacher took the whole class to it.
Oh, that's cool.
Or was it the class? No, I remember what it was. She actually only took a couple of her students, and I don't know what it was, but I loved my 2nd grade teacher, and she and I and a couple other students had kind of a really cool relationship, and she took us to that movie, and I have kind of a connection to it because of that. But it's also just a really brilliant musical.
It is really good.
And when I saw the trailer for this, and because I was curious, but then I saw the trailer and realized that they were doing the songs, because I didn't even know if it was necessarily going to be a musical.
Yeah.
I didn't know this was going to be an experiment in seeing if you can recreate that kind of magic in live action, and whether or not you think this is a good idea as a movie, that we've got to go back and rehash old stuff and just create the classics in live action again, taking away from slots we could be using, money we could be using to create brand new things. Oh, a fascinating experiment.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought they did a wonderful job with it, and we should probably not go into too much before we flip our boards.
Yeah.
But I have a lot to say about just the difference between just straight up making something that's just like the original and then adding to it.
Yeah.
Which I think is what they did here.
Well, go ahead and flip your board and let's find out how we feel about the live action version of Beauty and the Beast. Go ahead.
Well, this movie made me feel like I was watching a crazy, super souped-up version of the original Disney film.
So that implies that they improved on it.
I think they did. I really think they did.
In every facet, or in particular areas?
Well, I will say that after watching that, my first impression was that now if I go back and watch the original Disney film, I may feel like it's a synopsis of the live-action version.
Interesting.
Where they have to take out parts and condense it and kind of throw away some of the meat.
So you didn't feel like this was padded, because it's longer.
No, it's not. No.
And we take our time with stuff we didn't initially.
I felt like it gave more of the story, and it should have been there, and it filled things out, and now that certain parts of the story make more sense to me. There are a couple things where it's like, that, throw that away. Just little bits of scenes where it's like, I don't know if we needed that or not, but most of them, I'd say 85% of them, I was so glad they added.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta ask you about the added music, though.
I was about 50-50 on that.
Okay, I'm about 20%. There was one new song I liked.
Yeah.
And it's like 30 seconds long. Everything else, scrap it.
Yeah.
I didn't like any of the new material except for the first one with Belle's father. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a remarkable song.
That was great. I loved it.
And the end credits close on it. And it was cool to hear the rest of it.
I think
because he sings a verse and then we get back into the story. I didn't like any of the rest of the music.
I think that song being the first real original one that we got, I think I liked that one so much that it kind of opened me up to the idea of added music in that, and so I was I was already accepting of it, mm-hmm. and so there were a couple that turned me off, but there were others that
well, I don't know that there are more than 3 or 4 within like 4.
Right.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I didn't.
But you did
count
say
them.
50-50. Okay. Yeah. All right. I was turned off to all the rest of them.
Okay. Yeah.
And when we got that first one, I was like, oh, how long is this going to feel? Like, if we do every major song, which we did, I think every song is there, and we're putting more songs in, is this going to feel like a 3-hour opus that does not need to feel that big?
I don't think it did.
Okay.
Maybe I was just enjoying it too much.
Yeah, sure.
But it didn't feel like it was long, drawn out. I was waiting for it to end. But I think there was only really one added song that I just didn't like. The others, I could watch it again and then I'm like, nah, not so much. Or I could watch them again and be like, oh yeah, they're growing on me. So, I don't know.
Best thing, worst thing?
Best thing, I like that it was just... Okay. It's hard to pick one best thing.
Okay.
Because there's so many. One thing I did really like, and this is just kind of out there, I liked that they went full tilt French with it. Because the Disney movie, it's obviously in France, they play on it a lot, but this kind of just takes it and runs with it and says, okay, what do we know about historical France during this time period? Let's throw it in there. Let's actually make it a little bit... have more of that French feel in it. And so you had... I
don't know that they made it more authentically historic or anything.
No,
it's still real
cartoon
France, right?
But they
it feels almost out of time to some degree. Like you say, that period, like, I know what period it's supposed to be, but then...
Yeah, but they just pulled more from it. And so it just felt... And
it's also a real fairy tale, obviously.
Yeah, the original you can kind of forget after the first 10 minutes that, oh, yeah, it's in France. But... You get the first song that's about bonjour, and then they throw in a couple things scattered in rarely through the rest of it. But this is just all of it. And I'm not a huge fan of necessarily that culture. It's not my style. Uh-huh. Let's just put it that way. But
the architecture's cool.
Yeah, I think some of it goes overboard, but it is cool.
Sarah's an architect, if you're not familiar.
But I really think it was handled well, and I actually appreciate it here. And so that was probably the one really surprising positive that I...
Although the accents are all over the map, right?
They are, but... Yeah.
I just want to give people a false impression. Like,
yeah, they're not.
I'm with you. There are a lot more references to things.
Yeah.
And stuff.
But, yeah, it's not... Yeah, the
okay,
accents.
Do you have bad stuff?
Besides that one song that I just didn't like... I've been trying to think of bad things. And
wow.
I really liked this. So, I mean, I think there are certain characters that I didn't care for as much in the Disney movie that I suddenly appreciate a lot more.
Yeah.
And it just kind of rounded people out. And I really like what they did at the end with the townspeople and the people in the castle.
Me too.
And...
Sure.
Where was that in a Disney movie? You know? I kind of think that should have been there.
I had to remind myself that they even had any interaction initially in the original.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah, and they do for a second, but they go a little farther with it
Yeah.
They go quite a bit farther with it in this version. But I forgot that the items in the castle, the talking objects, did anything with those people.
Yeah.
And because I was in the theater going, is this a departure? Because I was doing that quite a bit through this, where I was like jogging my memory, trying to remember. Because I did rewatch that film recently, but a lot of it, I agree with you, was organically blended in enough and were holes that kind of felt missing initially, especially on multiple rewatches when you can, and I mean, I watched this a ton when I was a kid, but the more you would think about it, okay, actually the big one they didn't really fix, or one of the big ones they didn't really fix, I still don't know how they find the castle at the end. That is still not explained.
Well, he has the mirror. And the mirror, just shows you whatever you need to ask you to show it.
He doesn't know that. He's not using it for that.
He did.
Does he?
Yeah.
Is that in the original?
In the original,
too?
Yeah, in the original, Belle has already said, "Show me the beast." And that's how they know what he is. And
but they know what he looks like, but he's not talking to it.
Yeah, but in the Disney movie,
saying, "Show me a map of how to get to the castle."
Right. In the Disney movie, it's a little ambiguous that, okay, he has the picture of the beast, and how is he going to find the castle? Mm-hmm. In this, he actually does bring up the castle at one point.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. Because there's a thing that happens early on that is one of the first big departures, where Gaston does something he doesn't do in the original. This is a weird thing to do because I don't mind spoiling a movie from 1992, but I don't want to give away too much about how they've changed this, because those were surprises, and it was nice not to feel like you were just watching the same film you've seen. And again, it can be fun as an experiment to totally redo a thing scene for scene, but it doesn't really give anything enough to the audience. So my go-to example is always Psycho, where we redid that frame for frame. Yeah, it's impressive, but it's interesting if you're there and making it. Not all that interesting for me after I realize what you've done. Oh, okay, you made this, but this isn't that. So I want people to get to go experience it.
Oh, right.
But early on, there's a thing Gaston does in the original that he doesn't do here, and he does something different, and it takes us in a slightly different direction, and ultimately all paths lead to where they lead in the original. But I really thought that that bit was going to be our explanation.
So he actually finds the castle.
So he actually finds the castle.
Yeah.
And then again, hopefully I'm not giving too much away, but then that doesn't happen, and I was like, oh, okay, I still don't know.
Yeah.
But you explained it, okay.
Yeah. One thing that this movie explained that I always wondered about in the Disney version. So in the Disney version, they kind of go between sunny and snowy a lot.
Yeah.
And you don't really think about it
There's
that much.
There's a lot of stuff like that in this, where I'm like, oh, I never even thought to question that.
Yeah. And this explains it. It's like,
now,
of course.
Some of that, though, is fairy tale, or more fairy tale versus traditional narrative. Mm-hmm. And clearly, I don't know if they're all doing this, but Maleficent did this a little bit, or did this a lot. That was one of my big issues with it. This is trying to create more three-dimensional characters as opposed to archetypes. Mm-hmm. And so everybody's got to have more fleshed out motivations and background. And I thought some of that worked really well, and some of that left a little bit to be desired or did not need to be there at all. But I kind of appreciate that there is a little bit more of an explanation in his background for why Beast is the way he is.
Yeah, I liked that.
I was kind of glad we had that. We don't have that with Gaston. He's still a cartoon character. He's still completely one-dimensional.
Yeah. No, he's a soldier, actually.
Oh, that's
true. That never came up.
Did it not?
He was a captain in the war. And it actually kind of rounds him out.
Oh, that's a good point, because there might be some PTSD.
Except that the war was actually the thing he liked.
Yeah? So coming back was PTSD. That's actually hilarious. No, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you're flipping your sign green. Clearly.
Yeah. No way around it.
Okay. I did not like this as well as you did.
No.
And
that would be hard.
And I really appreciated it, and I'm glad I saw it. But it is not anything like a perfect movie, and even a perfect adaptation remake. But there are a lot of things in this. There are a lot of things in this that I think improve on the original, and there are other things that I kind of wish we had just left out. This movie made me feel like I was attending a live stage performance of Beauty and the Beast with, more CGI. It
CGI on
really
stage.
felt like like a local production or a traveling production where like the sky is the limit money wise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where and that maybe seems like a cop out board.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, we're taking live actors and doing an animated movie, but the reason I say that is because of all the liberties that are taken. Because of, and again, a lot of it's great, but it's like when a theater troupe tries to adapt something for stage and they don't want it to be exactly what you've seen before, and they want to like have creative license and take, again, some liberties. So there's a lot more new dialogue here than I expected. The whole thing is rewritten, and like, you'll notice the token scenes that are where the back and forth, especially between the Beast and Belle, is exactly the same. And weirdly, it took me out more often. And it's not really a problem, but like I was kind of back in the original movie then, and had to like readjust to this other version of it that I was watching when we got out of those bits.
I like some of the parts where they tweak lyrics in the songs.
Yeah.
That was so
the best
fun.
one is in the Gaston song.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that was hilarious. Some of it goes too far. I didn't... one of my biggest issues with this is... And it's not constant, but there are enough of them that it bugs me, where characters will come right out and overstate things, especially motivations that I understand already from the context of what's going on. Okay. Gaston has one real early when we just before we see he and Belle interact for the first time, where he feels the need to come out and explain to the audience why he's attracted to her. I don't like that.
He does that in the...
Not as far as he takes it in this.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he says plays hard to get in the original, maybe, I can't remember, but I felt like he took it too far here.
Okay.
Or maybe this highlights things that actually are issues in the original because it's a longer film and we're and we're taking longer and we've got more downtime. You know, like maybe it's accidentally accentuating flaws that I never noticed initially. So you could be right on that, but I don't know, that kind of bugged me. This is a weird complaint, but there are places, especially in the songs, where I feel like we're going out of our way too far to differentiate line deliveries. There are some line deliveries that are just the quintessential way you would say that line.
I caught a couple of those.
And I felt like we were kind of trying too hard to differentiate ourselves. So again, I really appreciate that it's not exactly the same movie. I'm glad that I get a different experience with this, and I'm glad that I have more motivation for characters. Especially the servants in the castle. They are absolutely the best part about this movie. That will be my best thing. Everybody is cast right, and I think my favorite thing story-wise is that they're all at fault too. I love that. We don't have that in the original. When we went back and rewatched the original recently, we watched the extended cut, which is extended by one song, and it's a terrible song. But the couple of songs I really detested in this are worse than that. I really think, Beast has a thing at the end that just made me want to tear my hair out. I really, really, really disliked it. But anyway, where we... In that extended cut, we've got and I never heard it before. We were like, oh, there's an extended cut. What is that? And then we watched it, and we were like, oh, I see why they
shouldn't have extended that.
I see why they took that out. It gets harder to call that movie a masterpiece with that song in it. But
and the extra bits about with
Romeo and Juliet, which they brought back in this, and it worked. It was great. Is that what you're talking about? Or?
That whole thing, and just the Beast forgetting how to read.
Yeah, okay, so I'm jumping around, but that was one of the things that made me so excited about this in the trailer, because he has that line, and nothing in the trailer is not in the movie, by the way. We run into this all the time, and it's pretty tight. They don't seem to have felt the need to drop anything out of it that I noticed. But anyway, in the trailer, we have that line that's, of course, in the film, where she asks if he's read all the books in the library, and he says, well, some of them are in Greek. I really like that literature is something they have in common. So they have a common thread, and it isn't just, oh, he's nice now, so she has to fall in love with him.
Yeah.
There are reasons to like this guy, and there are reasons specifically that this unique person would care about this other unique person, and they have commonalities.
Absolutely. I thought they had a lot more chemistry in this than they did in the Disney movie. And they had chemistry in the Disney movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely they did.
I mean, it made perfect logical sense why these two would come together in this movie.
But yeah, so in the original, the extended cut, there's this song where we're making a really big deal out of the objects that are the personified objects in the castle wanting to be human again. And I resisted that because I kind of appreciated the feeling. Again, you're right. I mean, now some of this is going to feel almost like a clip show of this more developed story we have. When I was a kid, I kind of liked that you get to the end of the movie and they all get transformed back into people, and I feel kind of like a moron because it never occurred to me that they were people in the first place. And there are a couple lines about it, but it's kind of blink and you miss it.
Yeah.
And in this, they go full tilt the other way, and it's all about the tragedy of their being trapped the way they are, and I cared.
Yeah.
And I loved them. And going as far the other way as they did worked.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant. I couldn't believe it. Yeah. I also appreciated, and I don't feel like this is giving too much away because it's in the original, but that we really drove home what exactly happens to them when the petals all fall.
Yeah.
And
it's different than in the original.
I don't think it is. I think they just made it clearer or talked about it more and talked about the kind of horrifying nature of it because the line "we will be antiques" is in the original. So the question is, are we taking that farther in this with what exactly it is that happens with them, or did I just not pick up on it the first time around?
I think they're taking it farther in this. I don't think that was ever the intention in the original. I don't, because I mean they kind of turn around and walk away out of the room after the last petal falls. It's like, well, I guess that's it.
That's a really good point.
There's no expectation that anything else is going to happen.
Yeah, you might be right about that. It's just, I guess maybe that, like, because this is what I always thought it was, and this movie made me think, I watched this movie and felt like I was taking a class on that movie, where it was like, oh, that's what it was, okay.
Yeah.
Which is cool, because it means that I bought something new, hook, line, and sinker, in the context of this version.
Yeah.
But I guess what it was in the original was, we'll become antiques, meaning we never have a chance at being human again.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be stuck this way forever.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
We'll be 200, 300 years old, still kicking around this castle as teacups and clocks.
Furniture.
Yeah. Once again, as I said, casting is brilliant. I was really excited about McKellen. He didn't disappoint. In case, and some of the folks watching are going to already know this, in case you are not aware of who Mrs. Potts is, I'm not even going to mention it here, because that was one of my big surprise moments that got me giddy. I don't know if you noticed the look on my face when that happens, but when we find out who she is, because the posters show the human versions, so you do get to see the actors voicing them, and it's the last person I expected. And it's an actress I like a lot, and I could not believe that's who had that voice and sang that well. It was impressive. She's almost as good as the original.
Yeah.
And I think I can say that about most, if not all. Lumiere's great. I didn't know Ewan McGregor could sing. Well, actually, no, he's been in musicals. Another thing about it, I just don't think I've ever seen them.
And speaking of Lumiere singing, Be Our Guest.
It's brilliant.
Was amazing.
How about that running gag of her not being able to get food? Was that in the original? Because I don't remember that.
Well,
that cracked me up.
She's picking in the original. She's picking at things as they walk by, but it's not like can't
in this
their dinner. But they went as over the top, if not more, as they did in the animated.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have expected that from live action.
And I wouldn't expect it to work either.
No,
and it
totally
that's
did.
the thing, is that there's a lot of confidence in the material here. That's a lot of why it's working. Also, of course, and then I'll get to another big iffy thing I have. But set design obviously is insane.
Yeah.
Wardrobe, of course, is great. Prop design is nuts.
Yeah.
Think about what you have to do with this. You have to build props that are going to turn into CG creatures that are going to come alive.
Yeah.
And then show them as props again. I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
I questioned and I know I complain a lot about CG integration, but I questioned the Beast being a CG enhanced creature at all, because all of him looks like it's really there, except for his face.
Yeah.
And you'd expect the opposite of that, or at least some of the opposite of that.
Yeah.
It looks good. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. It's just I can tell.
Yeah.
And
well, I think we're just not quite there yet.
Yeah.
We're
again,
we're like
I know-
this close.
And this isn't a Tarkin thing. It is possible that they couldn't have made it look anything like as good as they did with just prosthetics.
Yeah,
Or that
I don't
some
think
of
they could.
or that some of the things that he has to do that he couldn't have physically done
Yeah.
in prosthetics.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
I
not.
was okay with the idea of this, of him being CG enhanced.
Is it a proportion thing? Is some of it just that creature is too big to be played by a human being? I'm not sure, because I don't know how small Emma Watson is, and we
Yeah.
don't see him against a lot of larger people. And of course, you get the perspective between him and Gaston at the end, but he's hunched over. So like I'm not sure. That might be all it is that
Yeah.
you couldn't make a character that big.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think they did okay with it. I mean, yeah, I could tell, but I was expecting it to look worse than it did, and so I think.
I do feel like we got a real performance.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
I thought that guy was great. I don't right off know him from anything. I should have looked him up before the show. I didn't.
Yeah. Well, and what was great is that as we were going through and he was delivering those lines, I was getting a lot of emotions and thoughts internalized that were coming through in his expressions in line delivery that informed what the scenes were about from the original Disney movie. I don't know if you
and
had
choices
that at
he
all.
made.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe not so much.
I got a little bit of that, where it's like I wasn't sure exactly what he was doing in one place, and then now it's like, oh, okay. And I'm sure he just made a choice, and that came across, but it's a good choice.
One of the reservations I have about making it longer at all, and don't get me wrong, because I think that was necessary to make this a different experience, and I think it's paced pretty well, but because you spend so much time with other characters now, I mean, we spend a lot more time with the furniture, and the objects.
But well worth it.
A lot more, and there's even new characters there that we didn't have in the first place. There's a piano, a harpsichord that's awesome, but I feel like you lose the Beast a little bit. Like when he and she start cultivating a real relationship, it feels a lot later in the movie than it did initially, and there are just long swathes of the movie where he's not a presence, and that might be a necessary evil, but it was a thing I noticed, where I was like, oh, I haven't seen the Beast in a long time, and he's supposed to be, kind of a dual protagonist in this movie. We do more, we try to combat that with some new mythology. This is a much more complex spell now, and there are things about it I just don't like, and I won't get into it here because I don't want to spoil it, but there's one added thing in particular that I didn't really care for, didn't think we needed, that we do. I mean, I certainly appreciate this to a degree, that we do in order to get some information so that we don't have to go to a flashback, to like a straight up flashback. I didn't need that. And that's also where there's a not so great song. But okay, there's a pretty dreadful song, I think, there. But it also is a device that makes the mirror feel almost superfluous. It's weird. You have almost a double beat thing in the spell now. Really? You gave her that thing and the mirror? Okay. So I don't know. I didn't need that.
Well, I don't know. I don't think he showed it to her and said, "You can probably get a lot more use out of this than I can because it's more of a curse for me."
No, but I'm talking about the old crone. Like, really? She gave him both of those things?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. It's just the spell's too well thought out to me. I don't know. I don't know why. And she conveniently threw some plot devices in there so that we could get some exposition. So I don't know. That was the thing. I really hate to say this, and she won me over more than I thought she would. But probably my biggest reservation of the whole thing is Emma Watson. She doesn't feel like Belle to me. It's not the same character.
I don't know.
It's the same character on paper, and she and the Beast do have chemistry.
Yes, and I wasn't sure.
But I'm not buying the song at the beginning.
Based on the previews, that she would work. I wasn't sure going in. She sold me on it. She totally sold me. She sold me with the first song, actually.
Okay, here's my problem. This is going to sound, or part of my problem, this is going to sound absolutely awful. She looks like a bookworm. That character's not supposed to look like a bookworm. You see what I'm saying?
But I also think she's prettier than the original Belle, and Belle was supposed to be.
I'm not with you on that. Okay, that's where we differ then. That's the reason you didn't have the experience I did.
Yeah.
I don't think she stands out enough in a crowd.
I never thought Belle was all that pretty.
Really? Okay.
I always wondered why.
Look, I'm not saying
she
Emma
was the
Watson.
Prettiest girl in the whole village, and it's like.
I'm not saying she's not pretty.
Yeah.
I just don't think she's like.
You don't think she's a knockout?
Kind of standout that, see, it sounds awful. I'm not even saying she's plain. I'm just saying, like, and I don't think that they did anything to make her seem all that much less plain or looking like anybody else in the town. So when the townspeople, and it's the same lines, are singing about how like attractive she is and how she doesn't like fit, I was worried going in, and yes, this is a preconception, but I was ready to be turned around on this, and I just wasn't quite. I was like, okay, and Eric said this too, when we saw the trailer together. He was, I agree with him. He said, they cast her because she played a bookworm in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And you need an actress who doesn't look like a bookworm, but is one. And I don't know, the original, and I know I'm comparing animation to live action face. It's not just in the vocal performance versus the live action performance we get. There was a like genuine affect about her that I just don't get from the natural facial expressions Emma Watson tends to make. She's trying her hardest, but she just looks contrary all the time to me. Like, she just looks like she's ready to argue with you or pick a fight all the time.
But in a way, see, I don't think that came out as much. I think she was adapting it to this role better. But I think part of it that still came through, I think it worked for this material because they rounded out the town more. They rounded out her more. And if I lived in that town, I would go around with that expression on my face. I'm sorry.
That's fair. However, I think that's maybe a little bit of a cop-out because it felt like they had to redesign that a little bit. And again, it worked better than I expected it to. But I was hoping I wouldn't have this criticism, and I still felt this way. It feels to me like they had to kind of redesign that a little bit when nearly every other character is just an actor playing that character that's rounded out more. She's the only person I thought they remotely had to reinvent. Like, no one else is reinvented. Her father is a little bit, but that's because
her father's totally
not
more
just
reinvented than she is.
Yeah, but that's because he's not just the absent-minded professor this time. There's more to that guy. With her, I don't know that she's any more complex as a character than she was in the original, really. She's a little more tragic.
Yeah.
Only because you know more about her background.
Backstory. Yeah.
But I feel like they adapted it to Emma Watson instead of going and finding the right actress for that role.
I don't know. I think Emma Watson worked.
Wow.
I was not expecting that going in.
That is the biggest reason that you were as like this movie is near perfect than I was.
Yeah, well, she was great.
I don't agree with that, but
I liked when she runs out of the village and goes out and just that whole scene where she's just
she can sing. Nowhere, and I'll give her that.
She can sing great.
I was really impressed with that.
Yeah. No, I thought she brought
and again, I was glad she had the kind of chemistry she did.
Yeah. I just thought she brought a lot to that role. I thought she brought a real amount of energy and emotion, and I was there. I agree
with you, but I think she was miscast. I just don't think she was right for that role.
I don't know. I don't agree with you.
But anyway, I am certainly feeling it. I'm sure. Going back to this material, I'm more likely to look at the original than I am this. Which is weird because I do appreciate some of the added story stuff, but some of it's cringy to me too. I
don't know that I'd go. Even the song I didn't like, I wouldn't go to cringe. I would just be like, I was just kind of like, oh well, that's disappointing. You know?
There is, I think, maybe a superior, shorter cut of this movie. Actually, I think there are some things you could get rid of.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think actually I would go to the live action version more often.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I have the original memorized, basically.
That's fair.
So,
yeah.
But
yeah, it is neat to have something new with that material.
I really want to see it again. I mean, I know I just saw it, but I want to see it again. So.
Well, that's great. Well, if you saw it, leave your comments. Let us know what you thought about it. And thanks a lot for watching. And Sarah, thanks for joining me for this one. Appreciate it. It's been a good long time since you've been on one of these. And we will see you again with lots more videos here this week on Geekvolution. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Sarah.
See you, folks.